Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Forecast for the week of July 12th. We're going to use astrology, gene keys, and human design to tap into the energies that are activated for the collective and see what it is that the sky is bringing to us this week. The sun has moved into gate 62. In the gene keys, the frequency band is the shadow of intellect, the gift of precision, and the city of impeccability. It's part of the logical circuitry, so it can take in a lot of information and making sense of it. And here in the throat center, it's also about explaining it to others in a way so people can take it in and understanding. On the other side, we have the 17, which is that that eye that can zoom in and zoom out, that perspective. So we call that channel the organizational being. So it's coming with that left brain logical understanding and bring that understanding to the people, to the collective. And on the other side, we have the 61, which is very different. If this 62 is the left brain, the logic, here we have the creative, the inspirational, and the more feminine. And really that's where we have the sun and the earth right now, showing us that we need both polarities, the receptive, the active, the logic, the creative. The other thing that's really powerful this week is that we have Mars and Venus, also feminine and masculine, that are meeting here in Leo in gate 4. And it's taken Venus 2 years to catch up with Mars. So they meet every 2 years. Venus is faster, so she's going around and then eventually catching up with Mars. And now it's happening in Leo. It was in Virgo, I believe, 2 years ago. So for me, it's really like a reset. And it's a reset that has to do with the qualities of Leo, which is our self-expression, our self-esteem, our boldness, our passion, how we shine in the world. But it's also, of course, when we look at it from a I Ching, gene key, human design perspective, this fourth gene key, it is about understanding. And in a higher frequency, it's also about forgiveness. So it comes to us with those themes that for me have a lot to do with the fifth line core wound in the gene keys, the core wound of guilt. Where for me the fifth line core wound is like the spaghetti, that you have so many spaghettis together and you've forgotten to put oil or butter in it, so they are all right together and it feels so impossible to get the spaghettis out. So the thing that you kind of have to do is to forgive the whole thing. You can't try to distangle it. It's a kind of letting go, because the fifth line can go into a lot of misunderstandings and conflicts that build and build and build. And then in that projection field, it's almost like there is no other way out than to forgive and go beyond it. So for me, it's also something that's starting. So this is a process that for me starts here in Leo in gate 4. That it might not be overnight. It might also be a process where you're daring to look at those spaghettis, those relationships where there seem to be no way out, but maybe looking at them from a different perspective that has this balance between the more logical and the more abstract. And there are more themes that come to this, but first I also just want to see what's on the other side, because what I feel here is that we have had this Jupiter, it's retrograde for a while here in the 55. So there might be something in your belief system that needs to shift in order for you to not make yourself a victim, but to be free. So we have the 55 that goes from victimization to freedom. There might be something here where we have Saturn that has to do with the 19 and codependency. There might be something in relationships that is codependent that you need to look at and let go of. And then the most powerful aspect, I would say, this week is that we have Pluto in opposition to the sun. It's not going to be until Saturday, but it's still, if we look in a gene key sense, we can see that we already have this opposition, 61 and 62. And that's even saying something might have to die. Something might need to radically transform. The Scorpio, which is the ruler here, might have to sting you so that you really fall down into it, so that there is something that can rebirth. So that for me feels very strong. And it's almost like it's here on this side, we have those interpersonal planets or signs, where we have Leo, which I said is about our self-expression and our boldness, and Cancer is about nurturing. It's about home. It's about family. It's about the thing it means to us. It's feminine. So for me, it feels like there are some things out here on the other side that need to happen. So maybe changing belief system, maybe changing how we're relating. It could be codependent. Maybe some kind of, the low frequency here is psychosis, but there is something here as well that needs to shift radically for us to really be able to come into the Leo quality and the Cancer quality. It feels like they are setting the stage for these 2 year cycles that we're coming into. And I mean, there are many themes here, and I feel since it is a 2-year cycle, so some of the things that I wrote down, it is about the self-esteem. It is about the love, the love that we can feel for ourselves first, because that's what's going to make you being able maybe to let something transform radically, to come out of codependency, to feel more free. It always starts with a relationship with ourselves. There is also the thing about intimacy and life force. And right now, when we look at the chart, it's a reflector chart. It's like life force can move everywhere. There is no stop. There is no fixedness. There is no preference. It's really just life force moving. And we have 3 of the 6 tantric gates here. We could also say that the 34 and the 10 are tantric, but especially these that are direct between the G here and the sacral, we can see there are a lot of hanging gates. So it feels like your life force, it has this possibility for electromagnetics tapping into the other and circulate energy together, this primal force from our sacral, bring it up to the heart, the identity, who we are, and then expressing it in truth in the world. And this is what Richard, Rad, and Roy are speaking about the Trivian being, pure life force, circulated up through the heart identity, knowing what love is, and then expressing that in the world. So that feels important as well with how we use that life force that we have here, the fire energy, the electrical energy. How are you using that? Are you just spilling it out in your lower chakras and your genitals? Or do you have this practice where you can bring it up and even higher up than the throat, even higher, even to the understanding, to the third eye, to the bigger perspective of things? And it feels like it is about also starting a cycle where it's about the things that you love to do, the fun, the playfulness. It can have to do with children, whether it's your inner child, your own children, other children. There's a playfulness that wants to come back in Leo, and setting up the life in a way that nurtures you, and that's fun when we look at Cancer Leo. I feel like it has to do, we also can speak about the fire signs. We could speak because we have Chiron here in Aries, and then we say we have this in Leo. So there's something about the ego, the personality to look at, because boldness is good, but there might also be a little bit of that ego that isn't so positive. So looking at, what's your identity, and what of it are you maybe holding on to that you're ready to let go of? Open G center, where does your identity come from? Is it from an inner strength, or is it from an outer forcing or an outer outsourcing that would have to do with also those risks for codependency? So looking at that, and we have the retrograde as well here in Saturn. So looking at that, like revisiting, where has codependency been present in your life? Because it's kind of sneaky in the way that it can show up. Yeah, and I feel like it is about longing and what you desire. We can do that in Leo. We have the right to say, this is what makes me happy. This is what makes me shine. This is what makes me feel sovereign. So all these things feel like really positive, and like there's really something here about also stepping into the truth of who you are and speaking from a way. So we've had Mercury in Gemini, and it also went retrograde there. So it was there for a long time, and together with North Node, it was looking for the truth. It was that's the Mercury, the messenger, goes around the wheel in 88 days and speak with all the planets and finds out the truth. So that's been a theme that's been very present for the last months, like bringing out, taking off that veil, seeing the truth, being also rational about things, not just over optimistic. But where it's just moving into, you can see here, is now in Cancer. So the way that we communicate, the way that we think, the way that we analyze things, suddenly, it is more about the nurturing. What do I need? What do the people that I love need? My family. How does my home need to be set up so that it's nurturing for me? That's really how the communication is shifting now that we are going in for this week and a little bit forward uh, in Cancer. So I believe that this is, it's a super powerful week. And if it feels like intense towards the weekend when we have this Pluto, the exact opposition Pluto Sun, allow things to transform. Don't be too attached. Because that's the best way that you can step into this next cycle, the 2-year cycle before Venus and Mars are meeting up again. Yeah, so thank you, and I will see you again next week.